Hey, it's you!
That bounty hunter again of all places.
I found you, faker!
Faker? I think you are the fake hunter around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my fake.
I'll make you eat those words.
The result from the combination of Samus's DNA with the radioactive Phazon, Dark Samus is the human manifestation of the dangerous substance with unknown powers, and is probably one of the series' most recognizable antagonists. While the character that we all know first showed up in Metroid Prime 2, Dark Samus' origins comes from the ending of the first Metroid Prime game on the GameCube, and its secret ending from collecting all the items scattered across its world. Now, before I continue, I want to simply clarify that I'll be referring to Dark Samus as a female since the logbooks in Metroid Prime 2 and 3 refer to the character as a she, and so does the Aurora Unit 242 in a voice dialogue in Corruption.
It appears that this is where Dark Samus and her main pirate force are stationed.
I'm just saying this up front to avoid any confusion with the audience. Yes, Dark Samus is canonically female. Get over it. Many years ago, a strange meteor crashed on the distant planet Talon 4, spreading a strange radioactive material capable of overcoming all life forms on the surface, known as Phazon, which the pirates wished to harness for military purposes. And after thwarting their plans, Samus descends into the impact crater to confront the planet's alien source of Phazon, the creature known as Metroid Prime. After an intense battle, Samus managed to defeat the Metroid Prime's core essence, thus making the creature return to its original Phazon form, where it attempted to hold on to the hunter while it self-destructed. However, the creature was instead only able to grab onto Samus's Phazon suit and managed to rip it off from her, which allowed Samus to escape before the explosion took place and destroyed the Choso Temple. Sometime later, the small amounts of Phazon that remained on the site were enough to fuse themselves together with the DNA in the armor that allowed the substance to reincarnate in the form of a doppelganger, simply referred to as Dark Samus. With its new form and identity, Dark Samus's instincts commanded to absorb more Phazon in order to grow in strength, perhaps in a way to complete its original evil scheme. And sensing that Talon 4 no longer carries enough supplies of the material, she sets out to find more in space, which eventually would lead her to reach planet Aether and encountering with her original counterpart. Although she had many boss battles in the game, each time Dark Samus was defeated, she ended up scattering her body onto the air into small particles, so she could survive and later reform her body at another location that had a sufficient source of Phazon. This is perhaps why at the end of Echoes she appears to be translucent, since at this point she hasn't managed to gather enough Phazon to fully regenerate her body. During Metroid Prime 2, Dark Samus would find herself searching all around the planet trying to consume more Phazon, at times fighting against the pirates to steal their reserves since she required more energy, and confronting Samus whenever the two ultimately crossed paths. Perhaps because deep down she knows that Samus is the only threat that can put a stop to her plans. Because it turns out that the doppelganger's true intention for collecting Phazon was to be able to continue its original goal from back in Talon 4 and spread the substance wherever it can. And with her new form, she was no longer trapped to a single planet and could spread the Phazon across the cosmos, granting her control over the universe by corrupting the mind of anyone who gets consumed by the substance. A plan that would have come to fruition during Metroid Prime 3 if it weren't for Dark Samus sort of dropping the ball and not getting rid of a Samus when she clearly had the chance. So much for your master plan. The Federation's home base is still intact. But did you at least manage to take out Samus and her silly friends?
Oh yeah, about that. I fired this new crazy Phazon beam that knocked all of them unconscious. And since I felt it was too easy, I just decided to leave. But hey, at least on the bright side, her friends do my bidding now.
Wait, so let me get this straight. You went all the way to Norian, ambushed the bounty hunters which single-handedly knocked them unconscious, and then you just left?
Yeah, that seems to be about right.
So you didn't take the opportunity to kill Samus while she was defenseless?
Hey, who are you to question my methods? They are far too complex for your tiny brain to comprehend. Soon, that wretched hunter will be at my command. and then no one will be able to stop me.
Ridley, sir, we received a report that the hunter has made her way to Brio, and she's attacking our base of operations.
So I guess your plan didn't quite turn out as you expected now, did it?
Nah, it's fine. Just give it some time. Soon she'll be one of us. You will see.
Sir, reports indicate that the hunter has managed to destroy the Leviathan seat on Brio, and now she's making her way to Elysia.
You seriously don't think it would be a good idea to maybe, I don't know, go and stop her? Maybe infect her with more Phazon or something, get the job done.
Oh man, it sure's been a long week. I think I'm just gotta go back to Phase and watch some space flicks before calling it a day. I think you guys can manage it.
That clearly hasn't worked in the past now, has it?
It's gonna be fine. She won't be able to even find your homeworld. And it's not like the Federation is gonna show up and set a full-scale invasion in revenge. Now is it? Well, since everything seems to be settled, I'll be seeing you in Smash. Laters!
Remind me again why they even thought it was a good idea to follow her plans.
She's controlling our brains, man.
In Metroid Prime 3, Dark Samus was able to command the space pirates by controlling their minds with the power of the Phazon, and use them to help spread the substance by crashing Leviathan meteors into various planets, which are the same ones that landed on Talon 4 and Aether on the previous games. These meteors originate from planet Phase, known as the source of all Phazon, and it's here where Samus and Dark Samus have their last combat before the doppelganger's ultimate demise. For when Samus emerged victorious, she set off a chain reaction that led to the destruction of the planet, supposedly also destroying all the Phazon in the universe alongside it, leaving no way for Dark Samus to regenerate her body afterwards. One of the biggest mysteries remaining from the character comes from her last struggles during the climactic battle on Dark Aether, as she slowly approaches Samus before once again spreading her body onto the air. And while there isn't a concrete answer to what she intended to do in this moment, my personal theory is that she perhaps found a way to infect Samus with the Phazon corruption, but wasn't able to test it out due to the lack of Phazon in her body before fading away into Aether's orbit. But she was instead able to use this ability in Metroid Prime 3, where she not only successfully was controlling the minds of the space pirates, but she also managed to take over the minds of the other bounty hunters that were alongside Samus and Norian, thus being able to amass an army of her own to fulfill her ambitions. Although Nintendo games are notorious for implementing the dark alter ego of their protagonists at some point in their series, the key aspects of what makes Dark Samus extremely alluring is the character's commanding and menacing presence. There is always an air of uncertainty with Dark Samus, and you even get to see a hint of anxiety coming from Samus when confronting her that really adds up to her presence and creates a unique tension that you don't really get to see in other games from the company. And this sense of unease really translates beautifully into her boss fights, since Dark Samus behaves much differently than other common enemies by being able to jump away from your lock-on, deflecting your barrage of missiles, creating clones who attack you on their own accord, and surprising you with unique attacks that are clearly inspired by Samus's arsenal from the past. It also helps that in Prime 2, Dark Samus pops in every once in a while, making you believe that there might be an upcoming battle even when there isn't one planned yet, which puts players on their toes and helps sell the air of mystery and anxiety that makes her so popular amongst fans. You never quite know what she's planning, or where she might appear next. Actually, a fun fact about the character is that the producer of the Prime series, Kensuke Tanabe, did not consider making a sequel to the game until he saw the final scene after the credits. So perhaps in a way we have to thank Dark Samus for inspiring the decision of making the Prime series into a trilogy. In fact, when you take a moment to think about it, Dark Samus is one of the few characters who have been able to best Samus in combat at some point in the games, as seen in the opening moments in Metroid Prime 2 before Samus loses her power-ups, and later on in Norian during the events of Metroid Prime 3. The other characters who have completed a similar feat are Ridley and Mother Brain during the opening and ending of Super Metroid respectively, the Omega Metroid at the end of Metroid Fusion, the Federation Force members during the game's final mission, although I wouldn't say that really counts, and technically also the X-Parasite that became the SAX at the beginning of Fusion. A subtle storytelling detail that some people might have not noticed at first is that during Dark Samus' death in Metroid Prime 3, the camera focuses on her left arm as she raises it into the air while opening and closing her hand, which is a reflection of the same action she made during her birth on the first game of the trilogy, which in a way is a cool imagery to symbolize the character's destruction, especially when you consider that afterwards we see the Phazon that was once growing inside Samus finally disappearing, severing the ties between the two characters. Another fun fact is that contrary to what you might expect, in Metroid Prime 2, Dark Samus is weak against the Dark Beam instead of the Light Beam. This is because she is technically a life form that was born on the normal or light dimension, if you may. And while she still takes damage from the Light Beam, it won't deal extra damage to the clone because she isn't a creature native to Dark Aether's dimension. By the way, the reason why Dark Samus doesn't take any damage from Dark Aether's atmosphere is because, well, this is actually really never explained in the games. So I guess it's another case of everyone's favorite explanation, the one and only bird magic. Because when something doesn't make sense in the Metroid universe, just blame it on the Choso. But in all seriousness, it probably has to do with something relating to the fact that her body is completely made out of the Phazon, which probably makes her immune to Dark Aether's toxins.
Just in time.
Moving outside of the Metroid games, Dark Samus has made several appearances in other media, most notably in a manga series called Metroid Prime Episode of Aether, which was published over the span of 7 issues of the Japanese monthly comic Bum Bum Manga Magazine, starting in July of 2005. This story is a basic retelling of the events from Metroid Prime 2, with some additional secondary characters in the form of some surviving Federation troopers, where Dark Samus plays the role of a secondary threat to the Ink Swarm that is trying to overtake our heroes and Umos at the Great Temple. Not surprising, the manga was never released outside of Japan, although today that's not much of an issue since it's easy to find fan translations online, and I'll leave a link to one of them in the description for anyone who wants to give them a read. It's worth your time if you ask me. Like I talked about before, Dark Samus has made a prevalent appearance in the Super Smash Bros. Series, having a trophy with a Typal and Brawl and making an appearance as an assist trophy on Smash for Wii U and 3DS, before finally joining the rosters in Echo Fighter in Smash Bros. Ultimate. I have already addressed all the characters' references in the game on another video, so if you're curious on the matter you can check out the video on the title card or with the link on the video's description. One of Dark Samus' most iconic features is her sinister laugh that is prevalently heard in the games, and according to Clark Wynn, the person behind developing the game's sound engine, the laugh as well as other voice clips from the doppelganger were created by combining unused recording of Samus' grunts and screams of pain and then heavily processing them with the game's engine. This was intentionally done to help further establish a connection between the two characters. Another small Easter egg comes from one of the game's concept artists, Andrew Jones, who was in charge of creating some of the iconic creatures from Echoes, including our favorite Phazon-infused clone. At one point, Jones created 1,000 cell portraits, probably for practice or as a study, but is known for saying that, quote, "My portraits are quite a departure from my Metroid concept work, but I think you would be surprised that there are a few of the portraits that were the inspiration behind the final bosses in Prime 1 and 2. Which probably means that perhaps the face of Metroid Prime and the one seen in the translucent Dark Samus are probably based on some of his set cell portraits. With the dawn of Metroid's evolutionary jump into the 3D world with the Prime series, the guys at Retro Studios dedicated themselves to offer the franchise with some newfound life while still respecting its roots, by giving us a chance to witness the worlds through Samus's eyes. But in order to make this new direction be able to stand on its own, it required a new threat. And with the inclusion of the Phazon, there was no better way to truly show how dangerous and mysterious this substance was, by how it was capable of gaining sentience and copying the strength of the galaxy's most capable hunter. Dark Samus was the perfect way to represent how powerful and destructive the Phazon really was, and with its ominous and alluring presence, she quickly captivated the hearts of many fans and became one of the series' most recognizable and compelling villains because it seemed that she had her own agenda. For once, we weren't stopping the pirates' plans for galactic conquest, or fighting an alien species that was too dangerous to be left alone. But instead, we were fighting something far more sinister, and whose ambitions were further from our understanding. And that only helped corrupt the minds of the players into trying to learn more about this iconic nemesis. And perhaps this was an intentional way for the developers to make us really understand this doppelganger's true power over the minds of its slaves. Hey guys, just a short reminder before the credits in case you missed it that I released a new line of shirts that you can get over on Redbubble. And if you enjoyed this video, I am more than sure that you will love this cool shirt featuring Dark Samus that you can get right now. There are plenty of other designs that you can choose from, and I'm planning on adding some new options in the future as well, so let me know if there's anyone in particular you'd like to see in the comments. Also, just a reminder that you can still get stickers from the chibi characters you see in the videos over on the same site, and the quality is really nice, so don't worry about getting them damaged anytime soon. So if any of these designs tickle your Phazon fancy, then consider getting one of these products using the link down in the description, and know that your little contribution will greatly help out the channel during these tough times. Also, just a reminder that if you want to see more updates every once in a while, make sure to follow me over on Twitter and my newly made Instagram account, as well as my Twitch page in case you want to see me play random stuff every other day. I really appreciate the support I receive from you guys, it's the main thing keeping me going, and as always, thanks for watching.